So that's what I do a lot, is I pretend that I'm my potential customer, and I sit back and I think about, well, what are they searching? What would be helpful for them? And I try to behave the way they do. I literally open Google and start putting in those search terms, and then I study intensely what's already on page 1.
Hello and welcome to the How to Film Weddings podcast. My name is Nick Miller, and today I am joined by the one, the only, Mr. Sticky himself, John Bunn. John, how you doing, man?
Mr. Sticky?
Well, you know, you're the Sticky Bun.
Oh my goodness. Well, I'm doing really well. I don't know how I feel about this, but Mr. Sticky, I guess we can go there. I'm really pumped. Like, no hashtags. I'm pumped because I'm a little backlogged right now, and I've been testing out Wedditor, and they're pretty awesome. I don't know if you know, but
dude, I do know, because I am too a little bit backlogged, and I have recently gotten a film back from them as well. They are amazing.
So I just got it back today, and like I at one point in life I sent like some films like 5 years ago to like an editing company. It was pretty cheap, and the films weren't very good. So like whenever they reached out to us like, hey, let us edit some of your films, give it a try, I was very skeptical. But I just got the film back. It was awesome. I made a couple of changes. The next day, which is today, they sent me the film. It's done. I'm going to make some tiny tweaks, and it's done. And so like my mind is kind of hurting, like thinking that like they could edit in a way that I edit. And I am just like thinking about all this free time that I'm going to have now. I think I'm going to like, I don't know. I think I could go on a jog or something today. So I'm really pumped. That's all.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way. I got a film back from them yesterday, and I've been doing some tweaks this morning. I mean, it's almost all the way there. You know, probably we're in the 95%. Like, oh, this is a Wild Oak film. I just swap out a couple clips, make a couple changes. My wife's doing the coloring for it. Man, it's so good. It's so easy, and it saved me so much stinking time.
What are we gonna do with all of our time?
Maybe we'll run a podcast.
That's right. And today we do have a podcast, and I'm kind of pumped. I was a little geeked out, like I geeked out a little bit, but we talked all about something that I think that is kind of being forgotten, and in our groups a lot, we've been talking about it lately, but SEO.
Yeah. So today we have on Catalina Dow. And she is a wedding photographer based out in Portland, Oregon. And when she started her business, she just moved, and she was like, no one knows of me. No one knows who I am. So she just kind of dove headfirst into SEO stuff. And today she is rocking the SEO. She said that she gets 50 to 100 inquiries a month based on her solid SEO practices. 50 to 100 a month. So she has a new course out called SEO Is Fun. And when you hear her talk about SEO, you know that she believes that SEO is lots and lots of fun. So Today's podcast, all about SEO and how to improve your business, your website ranking and all that. So we're going to go ahead and jump in today's episode of the How to Film Weddings podcast.
Do you remember that wedding from a month ago? Yeah, like that one that you needed to start editing yesterday, but you also need to prep today for your wedding tomorrow, and you're leaving for your first vacation in forever on Monday. So what do? It seems that the only creative part of your edits are the excuses you're going to have to give your clients. We have the solution, Wedditor. Wedditor is a team of top wedding editors, project managers, and account coordinators that help us wedding filmmakers edit. They match the right editors with your style so you can spend your time where it matters most, on your business. Nick and I both use Wedditor, and we don't know how we would run our companies without them. It takes a team to build an amazing business, and you shouldn't try to do it all on your own. Head over to howtofilmweddings.com/Wedditor to help you free up your time so that you can focus on growing your brand. Wedditor, more than freelance, more than outsourcing. We know the time suck that is searching for the perfect song for your wedding film. MusicBed has spent years collaborating with artists, bands, and composers to make it easier than ever for anyone to find the right song for their video.
With amazing artists like Chapters, Tony Anderson, and The Light, The Heat, MusicBed is the best place for wedding videographers to get licensed music.
Their subscription service was a life changer for me, especially since all of their subscription music is pre-cleared for every social media platform Facebook, Instagram, Love Stories TV, and my personal favorite, YouTube, all pre-cleared.
And if you are interested in a free month of a MusicBed wedding subscription, head over to howtofilmweddings.com/musicbed. When you sign up, use the promo code HTFW and you will get your first month for free. Well, Catalina, thank you so much for joining us on the How to Film Weddings podcast today. For our listeners that don't know who you are, why don't you introduce yourself, tell a little bit about what you do, and then kind of how you got into all this SEO kind of stuff.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me on. I think it's really exciting because being a photographer, I love to speak to other industries like videographers, florists, when it comes to SEO. So I'm so excited to chat on here. But so I've been a wedding photographer full time. This is my 6th season. And I absolutely love it. And when I started, I was working, kind of the 9-to-5 corporate world for like 10 years.
Sure.
And and then, kind of traditional story, got a camera in my hand, just became completely obsessed with it, forced my coworkers in front of my camera all the time. And and I just had to, once it sort of started happening, I was like, I gotta see if I can do this, full time. And then I moved to a brand new city. So I was living in Los Angeles and I moved to Portland, Oregon, which is just a real smart time to start a business where you don't know anybody. Like you don't even know like the demographics of the area. And I lived here when I was a kid, but it had been a while. So I just remember sitting in front of my computer, sort of hitting refresh on my new business Gmail account. Just hoping that something would come in. And I was like, just putting things on Craigslist, like using verbiage like my studio is opening up to weddings because I read somewhere you should do that.
Yes.
Yeah. And I just remember staring. I've always been a little more tech headed. Like when I was in high school, I could like code websites and like just for fun. I was just really interested in it. So I remember sitting and looking at Google and being like, okay, like Googling Portland wedding photographer. And I'm like, how did these people do that? Like what is happening with their websites and with Google? And I want to figure it out. And so I started just doing a ton of research and started kind of doing all the things that I would read. Sometimes I did them right. Sometimes I didn't. But over time, I started to started to snag some rankings. And and then I got on page 1 for my local keywords, which like Portland wedding photographer, Oregon wedding photographer, things like that. And then all of a sudden, it was like year 3 and I'm getting, 50 to 100 inquiries a month. And it's been that way ever since. And it's just an awesome, it took some time, but it really paid off with, I just don't worry at all about booking out my year. So, so that's kind of my background with it. I'm definitely self-taught. I think I even started getting rankings before I even know it was called like SEO. I just was doing some stuff and then was like, oh crap, I better figure this out like for real. Cause it seems to be working. So that's kind of my
So like many of us in this profession, you are self-taught, but that doesn't mean that you don't know what you're talking about. You've spent hours and hours and time investing in yourself, investing in learning in this. So now you are somewhat of an expert when it comes to SEO. Yeah?
Yeah, I think so. I think, and I more look at results, that's so much of what I care about. And I think when I've even researched SEO or found SEO education, it usually there's like a disconnect. Often like same thing with like IT departments and management, right? They're speaking very different languages. And I think a lot of kind of more SEO experts don't speak the language of small business or really make it very attainable. So I love that in the way I learned it because I wasn't like an SEOer first and then, kind of did that. It's like I was building a business with SEO. So kind of like pairing those things together. But yeah, it's been fun. And it's honestly like my obsession. I have so much fun with it. It's so cool to like take a blog post or make a page and, strategize it and see it pay off. It's just a really cool way to market. Whereas like, I feel like Instagram, a lot of those algorithms and things on there are harder to figure out, and they change. And I'm just like, I've never been able to really wrap my head around it. Whereas SEO is really quantifiable and you can see results, which is really fun.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's good. That's good. So whenever, we're talking about SEO, I know if you've been, if you're self-employed and you have your own business or whatever, SEO is a term that gets thrown around a ton. And I'm sure, if you have a room full of 100 people and you say SEO, like there's going to be 100 different thoughts of like what actually it is or what it does or how you do it. So for maybe people that have heard this or they've thought about it before and it's so frustrating and they can't wrap their mind around it, can you maybe just give us kind of a simplified description of what SEO is? And then like you talk about keywords and all that stuff, like what a simplified version, and then, what you're doing with this data to help your SEO, search engine optimization.
Awesome. Yeah, that's one of my favorite questions because I think it is one of the most misunderstood terms that gets really thrown around. Like everyone's like, oh, I need to have good SEO. How do I get good SEO? It's kind of this funny, It's just this term that kind of gets, bounced around. So it's one of my favorite questions. So the big thing where I like to start with talking about what SEO is, well, first, what does the acronym mean? Of course, search engine optimization. But that's like still doesn't help really in a way. But I like to take a step back and more ask like, what is Google? Where did it come from? And what are Google's goals? That's, I feel like, the biggest thing to understand because we're trying to understand then the search engine. And then I think we can better understand how to optimize for it. So and I'll try to keep this short. So, back when the internet started, you had new websites being created, about dogs, about all these things, and, by all these really smart people that are now millionaires or whatever. And then some other smart people noticed like, unless you have the direct URL, you can't find websites about just dogs or these different categories. So that birthed the search engines, which were able to then, they were like, okay, we're going to write code that sends these crawlers out. They're going to read websites, understand them, and then bring them back to the index, and we'll file them and start categorizing the growing internet. I lovingly refer to those robots, the crawlers, as robot spider librarians. So it's like literally what they are. They coded these little librarians to go out and start creating a library. So when a searcher is searching on Google, they're basically just walking into a library and being like, hey, I need information on this. I'm looking for a Portland wedding photographer. I'm looking for an organic pizza recipe. And the librarian has created this index, goes, awesome. I have this information for you. And not only just information, I've used my employee handbook to pick the best information. So that's what is kind of page one, is the best of the best information out there built on Google's algorithm or the librarian's handbook, basically. So how does that connect to us, right? That's kind of like the overall. So when it comes to that, it's just search engine optimization is just taking steps to make your blog post, your pages, your website built on the rules that the librarian is looking for. So things like page speed, nobody wants a slow website. And so Google's goals, Google runs ads, they make tons of money on those placements. So they don't want their page one to be spammy. They don't want their page one to have, non-quality content on it and they haven't always been the biggest search engine. They are because they show the best results, and they've become, to say Google it is almost like it's like a common daily terminology that we use. It's own thing now. Sure. That's powerful marketing, and that's built on a trusted algorithm. So understanding the algorithm and being able to be like, okay, I want to create something that's high quality, that's trusted by Google, and that's going to fit into what Google's looking for and its business goals. So it's kind of aligning the steps you're taking on your website with Google's business goals. And then that comes into then you take steps of like, okay, what do I title my stuff? What content is Google looking for? And I think some people talk SEO, it's usually I get asked, like, well, what should my title be? What should my image alt text be? But it's more like what's Google's goals for for those particular search terms and what's the customer behavior around those search terms. So like when someone searches Portland wedding photographer, Google understands they're looking for a business. It's learned that customers searching that particular keyword, they're going to look for a business location. Whereas maybe someone searching, Yosemite wedding, it may more show blog posts about Yosemite weddings. So it's, Google kind of understands customer behavior. And I think when you get more into that, that's really what SEO is understanding what Google wants and then knowing how to format your content to kind of fit into that world.
Yeah, that's really good. I'm sitting here listening, and I'm kind of more on the geeky side, the business side, more so than like the art side. So like this kind of stuff, it's like, I love talking about this kind of stuff. Yeah. But I will say that like I'm very self-taught when it comes to my website and the SEO that we're doing. And so I think that's how most of us are. We get our business going, we have our website, and it's like, oh, there's this plugin or there's this thing. Yeah. And then we're like trying to figure it out on our own amidst, figuring out accounting and how to edit and how to light and all these things. So like I'm pretty self-taught, and I would say I would give myself like a B- or a C+ on how good of a job I'm doing, which I think is about as high as most of us are. So I guess my question for you, since we're doing all this ourselves, what are some of the biggest SEO misconceptions or mistakes maybe that you see in your business helping others?
Totally. I think the first one is most people are looking, and I understand the value of outsourcing, but most people are looking, like I get a lot of inquiries for like, oh, well, can you just do SEO for me? And to me, that kind of marketing, I think education should come first. You should first understand at least the basics of SEO and what your business goals are. Because there's a lot of people, they'll hire an SEO person who's not a photographer. Maybe they pay them monthly. Maybe they see some jumpings in the rankings. But then you're kind of stuck paying them because you don't actually understand what they're doing. And that can become a huge business expense. So I'm big with, because there's no like secret tricks to SEO. There's really not at all. And I think that's another thing people look for is like, okay, well, what's just going to get me on page one? So with that being said, with those two things is SEO is much more like investing than it is a marketing tactic, but it's an investment marketing tactic. It pays,
That's good.
It pays off over time. Whereas I think and a lot of people right now in the wedding photography and videography world, we tend to be younger. We're not quite, 401ks may not be like our forefront of our minds. We're looking for quick payoffs. And I think things like Instagram or it's like this instant gratification and like your limbic system, the way that humans work. And it's why we're bad investors too, is because we want to we pull out when it gets risky. It's harder to think through the long term when there's not that instant gratification happening. So SEO is so much more like a 401k. You're doing basically not these few secret trick things that are going to get you on page one. You're doing a kind of basket of things slowly and over time. And then you see the true payoff in about 2 or 3 years. And that seems like a long time, but the quicker you start and if anyone's listening to this podcast, if you're starting your business today, if you're starting this month, if you invest in SEO now, then, you in 2 to 3 years, you have this marketing chain that you can really rely on. So, and that's same thing with like a 401k, often people just transfer money, monthly and over time into this investment account. SEO is the same. I spend at least 1 hour a day on SEO, whether I'm thinking through tactics, and I just set a timer, just like 2 little half-hour timers. I'll be like, okay, I could make this blog post better, or I'll go research and just read a few things. But it's just 1 hour out of my day. And when I look at the screen time on my phone, and I spend 4 hours doing what am I doing on my phone? What am I? I'm just watching the same.
Only 4?
Oh yeah,
wow.
right.
Only
Yeah. 4. But it's I started to be like, okay, let's transfer some of those hours. What's really going to have the payoff, So yeah, but that's been just a habit that I've built over years that if I can, at least, 4 days a week, really putting an hour towards it. And then you start to see payoffs over time. Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things John and I talk a lot about on this podcast. Is John likes to call it the crock pot method, instead of the
Crock pot, baby.
where you're cooking your dinner all day and it's nice and tender and it's ready, rather than the 1 minute it would take to cook it in a microwave, right? And it sounds like when it comes to SEO, that's the method that you have to take. Like there is no overnight shift, right? There is no, it's going to take you weeks and months and maybe years for you to build it. But after you've done all this, you spent all this time in it, right? Then after you kind of get to the top, if you've built it right, it's going to be really hard for other people to knock you down because you have spent so long climbing to the top of the mountain that no one else can climb up there and reach you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly it. And I think people could hear like what you're saying with the crock pot and that having to put time over years, and it can feel a little scary. But we put years into Instagram, and we actually don't own any of that content, that reach. It could just disappear. Whereas Google only continues to make its algorithm better. And basically, if you're focusing on creating great content, you're just going to, like, any algorithm changes is going to bump you up. That's what I've seen over years is I'm like, oh, there was a little boost today. Oh, Google changed it, rolled out this new algorithm. So that's what's cool is like you really, like, you can really, like, that's exactly it. You can really sink your teeth into it. And like I know now with my website, if I want to go after a keyword, even stuff that's pretty high competition, I can do it because Google already trusts me. And I will come down and I'll be good. Like, oh, I'm gonna come get that. And it's fun because now I kind of compare it to like a new website's a little bit like a Corolla, and an older, beefier, really fully SEO'd site is like a Ferrari. Like anytime I put that thing on the track, it's gonna go, and that makes it really fun. So it takes time, to put in a new engine and change out parts and do test runs and align things. But it really pays off, and it's something that I can trust, and it's an algorithm I trust. So yeah, that's great.
So it's almost like, when it comes to your website and Google, if you're a photographer and you're taking pictures and some random person that you have never met starts critiquing your work, you're like, who are you? Like, why are you talking to me? Like that kind of stuff. But if it's a professional that that you trust, that you have a relationship with, and they say, hey, Catalina, I like this, but there's just something weird about this that you need to know about. You're like, okay, you're a trusted friend. I will take your advice and I might change something and do. Like, it's almost like Google is doing that exact same thing, right? Where if you're just a one-off person and you're trying to rank for this really, wedding videographer is what you're trying to rank for, Google's probably going to be like, no. But if you have done the time and you've built that relationship with them with your website, then whenever you're trying to rank for those bigger words, then they're like, oh, I trust you. I know you. Okay, you can come and I will listen to you. So
yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, there's
so many good analogies today, guys.
I love analogies. It's bad.
Ferraris, crock pots.
Yeah.
Whatever Nick just said.
Whatever I just said. Oh man. So let me ask you. It seems in what we have seen, probably the three most common sites that people have are going to be Wix, Squarespace, and WordPress. I'm assuming that it's more. I mean, Wix is probably a smaller percentage, and Squarespace and WordPress are probably the bigger, beefier ones. What is there, in your opinion, is there one that is better than another? I'm sure you get this. You're like laughing. You're like, oh, everyone asks me this all the time. Oh, yeah. Is there one that's better than another? And do some have their advantages over the other ones? Where it's, like you might say WordPress is better, but in Squarespace you can actually do this, which you can't in WordPress. Something like that. So I'll just let you talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, that question is great, and also my answer would be frowned upon by a lot of the SEO community, so I love it. I'm awesome. A little bit of a rebel rouser when it comes to this question.
I just hope she says WordPress. Sorry,
she's going to say Wix. She's totally going to say Wix.
So that is the one that I literally can't even have an opinion on is Wix. So the problem with Wix is for a long time it was Flash based, which was SEO death. Like,
sure.
It's not it's like, I don't know, flying. I know, it was just really cool. Wix came out to be like, I'm gonna have this boat like float across the screen.
Well, it was it's like videos, uploading a video where if there's no text around it, like the internet literally has no clue what the video is about. So that's kind of what Flash was for websites.
Exactly. So, and the problem with Wix is the only SEO information out there about Wix is put out by Wix. So that always makes me a bit apprehensive. So they've definitely gotten better. They're now, HTML based. Like they've definitely made jumps. But if someone is starting their website, I will definitely advise against Wix. They're just a little bit new to this world. So if you have a Wix site that ranks awesome, watch your rankings. Again, I'm more about results than rules. I'm all about, if it works for you, try it. Like I'm all about experimenting. And I kind of sometimes think about some of the SEO rules. I'm like, I'm going to break it and see what happens. I just want to do some testing. So, I just really can't have an opinion on Wix, and I usually advise against it if people are choosing. So now.
Which one are you telling people? Which one are you telling people to use?
So Squarespace and WordPress. So these are both really the heavy hitters when it comes to the SEO world. Traditionally, pretty much all SEOers will advise that you should have WordPress. That WordPress is the best. So, but that opinion comes from a wide world. A lot of SEOers work with big e-commerce sites. They work with people who are going after extremely high competition keywords. Portland wedding photographer is high competition for my industry. But people that want to go after pizza recipe, that's a global kind of keyword that can be very tough to go after. So WordPress does have a lot more bells and whistles. It has plugins, like Yoast that don't help SEO directly. Yoast is a tool. You still need to understand SEO to use it properly. So I would say WordPress is definitely the best. However, the one thing about WordPress is because it's so customizable, there can be more chance for user error. People not updating their plugins, accidentally breaking their mobile friendly, using templates that are extremely complicated in the code and end up slowing down their whole website. And if you have a slow website, doesn't matter how good your content is or that you're targeting great things. Google in these days and age, I know if a website doesn't load in like 3 seconds, I'm done. I'm out. We're all lazy. Sure. We're not waiting. So Google knows that. And my customers want a fast website. So with WordPress, and a lot of the advanced bells and whistles for SEO, most people aren't going to use. They're not going to edit their schema markup. They're not, and it's it can be a little bit of a complicated platform for people to use. So then let's talk Squarespace. So Squarespace has super impressed me with SEO in the last couple of years. For a while, they were trailing for sure on some things. And then now they've been much better. So they were just, Squarespace 6, I believe, is what we're on now. And they had the director of, and I always pronounce it wrong, which I'm an SEOer, so I should know, but Moz, they brought in a big time SEO expert to talk them through some stuff. And I'm part of their circle community and have tried to advise, and they've added some things that I really wanted because I was like, hey, we got to add this. Like, you say you're good at SEO, but these things are kind of missing. And they've added a few of those things that kind of brought it up to speed with WordPress. And Squarespace, you almost can't break. You really can't break the mobile friendly. The sort of schema markup and the code is super clean and well organized, just naturally. So it kind of does force you. Now you can't edit your schema markup, which I don't. So, and why I say this too is I've been Squarespace since the very beginning. And I've been able to go toe to toe with WordPress sites, no problem. Outrank WordPress sites. Because it's really not picking your platform that's just going to be better SEO. It all depends on what the efforts you're actually going to put into building your site and building a trusted domain. So yeah, I've really been impressed with Squarespace. It's easy to use. Again, it's good for people who I think aren't as tech-headed, aren't going to go super advanced with things. And it's almost better for them because they can't break anything. the Squarespace sites can't get really like hacked. Like I've seen a few WordPress sites get hacked. So yeah, they're just, so if, I feel like it's a kind of a split. If you want to get really advanced, if you're tech headed, if you're into that stuff, I think WordPress is a great option. If you're not, you want something that's easy to use. It's going to ensure your site loads fast. You know, their templates are really easy to use. They're really beautiful.
Sure.
Then I would go Squarespace. So I think it's more the user, that if you're scared of like breaking stuff and you don't know how to code or that kind of thing, and you don't think you're going to go like super advanced like SEO tactics, which I don't even do, and we don't really need in our industry, I think either can be great. If you have a little bit of a tech lean, WordPress is going to be better for the long run. But I've kind of loved making a Squarespace site work, because all SEO, especially when I started, it was, and even over the years, it's like Squarespace is terrible for SEO. Don't use it for SEO. And I was like, but I'm ranking fine. So, so I think it's kind of, I always love finding those little things that end up working, even though they're not maybe like the overall opinion. So
tell me, what CRM do you use? If you're not sure or you don't know what a CRM is, I'm about to save you a lot of time and therefore money. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. Basically, a CRM is an online service that helps you better serve your clients. HoneyBook is both mine and John's CRM of choice. We absolutely love it. HoneyBook allows us to do all of our correspondence, contracts, and payments all in one place. One of the features that I love is the automated workflow. We all have emails that we send out to all of our clients, right? At 6 months, 3 months, 1 month, the week of. All of us do it. Automated workflows make it so that those emails can go out automatically. Since I don't have to take time to, 1, remember to send them out, and 2, to write them, I save time and make more money by working more efficiently. Are you interested in saving time on the business side of things? Go to howtofilmweddings.com/honeybook for a free 1-week trial. Also, because the Honeybooks really like me and John, we can give you $200 off of your first year, and that also comes with a 60-day money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Go to howtofilmweddings.com/honeybook to start saving lots of time in your business. Oh yeah, legally I have to tell you that John and I are affiliates of HoneyBook.
So I think she basically said I won, Nick. WordPress.
I mean,
I have a WordPress site. He has a Squarespace site. But
nice.
I'm actually looking to switch. So I have a question here in a minute, just asking about that. But so I wanted to move on a little bit and ask. So we've got our site, like whether or not it's a Wix or a whatever the kind of site it is. Some things just to help our listeners. Like if I do have a Squarespace or a WordPress site, what are some basic things I should be thinking about to just start this? Because SEO, you can dive into that matrix for like and get lost. I mean, what are some basic things that would help our listeners like today that they could start doing to start improving like on their website? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think definitely number one, just get in the habit of setting aside some time to think about it, to research it. I think a lot of people talk about like, oh, I know I need good SEO, but then they don't really carve out any like solid time towards chipping away at that goal. So I think number one is kind of like how I taught myself. Pretend you're your potential customer. You know what? So it's like, okay, yay, I got engaged and we're happy. And now I have to plan a freaking wedding. Like a lot of people are super overwhelmed with that. And
Sure.
One of the first places they go is to Google and go, engagement shoot locations. Like they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Right. So that's what I do a lot is I pretend that I'm my potential customer and I sit back and I think about, well, what are they searching? What would be helpful for them? And I try to behave the way they do. I literally open Google and start putting in those search terms. And then I study intensely what's already on page one. You know, what is it? Is it blog posts? Is it websites? What are in those blog posts? What are they titled? Like how are they formatted? And I'm like, okay. And once I determine, I'm like, this is a great sort of search idea, I will create a page that sort of emulates what I saw. It takes everything that I was like, okay, they mentioned this stuff, like this is great information. And then I'm going to make it even better. So I'm going to be like, you know what? I think this is even additional better information, or here's some maps, interactive maps they can use, or, things like that. But that's one of the best things is just go look on page 1 and see what Google is already loving. So that's like a good place to start. And I think, and especially pairing it with also getting and I know I have like an online class and stuff, but getting SEO education, I think is incredibly important. The quicker you can get up to speed and do it fast, whether it's my class or other education, getting started on it sooner than later. Because once you know all the basics, then it's just doing it over time. It's just setting up the 401k account, get everything set up, and then you can just the little habits become super easy. So another tip, write for searchers, not search engines. So I think that's kind of an old understanding of SEO is you could be like spammy and just put in keywords and it'll rank. No, always have the searcher in mind, because Google has the searcher in mind. So that way you are doing what Google wants, but it's because Google wants to serve its searchers. So, write great content that's really helpful. And what I love is like, I have some content pieces that I've targeted, and, they rank, which is great. But then when someone finds it on page 1, they're that confused, engaged couple, and they're like, oh my gosh, here's this amazing, page about eloping. Look at all this amazing information. This photographer knows the time of year, all these locations. Like, you've already built trust by the time they even hit that contact form, they're like, oh, just thank you so much for helping me. And that way there's more of a through line. It's not just about getting page 1 rankings. You can get a page 1 ranking and maybe Google's like, okay, yeah, I'll rank that. But if it doesn't convince the searcher, it doesn't convince the customer that you're an expert, then it's can be kind of wasted. They'll probably just go back and find another page. So write for searchers, write great content. And the 2 things I always bring up that can be killing your SEO, even if you have great content, even if it's well targeted, is mobile friendly and website speed. So having a website that loads slowly, like I said, we're just lazy. And Google's like, I have lazy customers. I'm sorry. You have to have a fast website. So website speed. If you are wondering if you have a slow website, there is a free search test tool called Pingdom. So Pingdom, the Pingdom speed test. And that will actually give you the real load time of your site, since your own website probably loads faster for yourself, since there's some preloading going on. And then mobile friendly. So Google actually easily provides a mobile friendly test. So you just search Google mobile friendly test, put your URL in there, and just double check that you're mobile friendly. If you're Squarespace, I can almost guarantee that your mobile friendly is just fine. If you're WordPress, I found a few friend sites and it ended up that they were hacked and they didn't know. And the mobile friendly test ended up showing them that. And then when they hired a designer, a tech person to go in, they found out that they were hacked and were able to get that taken care of. And mobile friendly is like an absolute must now, because over 50% of searches are done on our phones, if not more. That's really changed over the last 10 years. So Google wants websites and blog posts that are mobile friendly. They need to look good on the phone, and not just look good, like tested. Google tells you it's good. Right. So that's kind of the big things is, start SEO education and thinking about it, write for searchers, write great content, and test out your speed and mobile friendly. And those are some pretty good places to start.
That's really, really good, really helpful information. Another thing, that we throw out that are important, right, are keywords, right? Like that's legit. Do those matter? Okay.
Yeah, okay. But keywords is kind of a weird phrase, or a weird word of itself.
Okay, so just talk about that.
Yeah, totally. So keywords are, it's one of the harder things to explain in a way, but that's why I like to instead be like, what phrases are your potential customers searching? Those are keywords. So keywords, again, it's like SEO. It's like this word that gets a bit thrown around. But really, what is being searched and what content can you provide for a searcher? So for example, SEO tactic I often use is to rank for venues. And it's because I sat down and go, okay, I think my potential customers are going to want to know what a venue looks like. and I'm a photographer, so I can show them what a wedding at their venue looks like. So, you know, so then I picture my searcher going and they'll type in, you know, maybe like, you know, so I don't know, like Empire State Building wedding, like, oh, I want to get married at Empire State Building. I'm just an example, but they'll look it up and, you know, my blog post will be there and I can show them directly photos that were taken there. And then if they love my photos, they literally love photos I took at the place they're getting married. So there's the through line. So yeah, so I'm going to target what they searched, Empire State Building wedding. And that's what I'm going to format my content around. So then it's like, if you do it like that, then you're going to use keywords most likely pretty correctly, but naturally, because you're like, okay, this is, you know, this is a blog post about a wedding at the Empire State Building. And I'm going to probably talk about weddings at the Empire State Building and, you know, title my photos, Empire State Building wedding. Like keywords become easy once you understand more like searcher intent and start there rather. So keywords are, not just keywords, but connecting your content to search terms that are actually being searched by your potential customers. That's like the bread and butter of SEO right there.
So like, you know, back in the 90s when I was in middle school and stuff, you know, whenever they would talk about search engine, you know, it would be like, if you want a wedding photographer, you would type in wedding plus photographer and you'd have to put it in quotes, right? This
yes,
is, you know,
I remember that. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
And so like, that's kind of how at that time, you know, 20 years ago, how people would build websites with this wedding and photographer. But now people aren't searching necessarily wedding photographer. They're searching, I'm getting married in Portland, Oregon, help, right?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, like that's literally, and so now you need to start maybe thinking of questions that people are asking when looking for certain venues or when looking for certain things, and then write your content around that sort of stuff. So the keyword is, maybe we should coin it key phrases rather than keywords. I you know, it's like a sentence rather than a couple words.
I more refer to it as a keyword cloud. So if you imagine like when you take like in back to middle school in the 90s where you had like your bubble diagram and you're like, I'm going to write an essay about this topic. And like it has all the bubbles that come off and it's like, okay, what's all the different like ways this keyword phrase can be written? Portland wedding photographer, Portland, Oregon wedding photographer, wedding photographer in Portland, Oregon, like wedding pics, Portland. Like, I don't know, like, people like, but that all fits into the keyword cloud. And so now Google uses semantic searching, which is basically, it understands that keyword cloud all means pretty much the same thing, that the searcher intent, they're all like, okay, you're looking for this particular thing. It will mean I may use, you know, so like I rank for Portland wedding photographer, I'll probably use photographer and the words photographer and photography on my website, just to put that in there because I know that fits into the keyword cloud. Or I'll use Portland, I'll talk about Oregon, you know, I might use OR. Like it's Google is smart enough to understand that all means the same thing. You don't have to, but it's good to understand that it's a keyword cloud. So that's how I kind of picture it, is sort of these words that all fit into this one thing that Google's like, this is what the searcher means. And I know that whatever they type in and spell wrong, this is what they mean.
Okay. Yeah. And we have a Facebook group. I don't know if you knew that. No. But yeah, all you have to do is search how to film weddings on Facebook. And you can join and be a part of our amazing Facebook group. We asked some questions in the group about it, but as you were talking, we're going to get to those in a second. I just thought of this one thing. Obviously, when it comes to your website, your URL is like the most important when it comes to like search. Like if people type in your words and they pull up your URL, like that's going to matter, right?
I think so.
Yes.
I think it would be.
Yeah. Well, you know, like, you know, if my website is my name, nickmiller.com, which it's not, but if it were, and people typed in Nick Miller into Google, then nickmiller.com would probably be the first thing to pop up because
yeah, that's like your brand keywords. That's kind of that's referred to.
Right. Yeah. So if URL is like at the top, okay, if you're saying that's it, like when it comes to like things that are on your website that are the most important, like where would you go starting with URL, starting kind of down? What are maybe the top 3 things that you need to really try and optimize for now your keyword phrases?
Yeah. So one thing is, your URL is fine to be your brand. I think there was some belief for a while that you should have like, it'd be like Catalina Jean, portlandphotographer.com, that kind of like it should be in the URL like that. So that's totally fine. Yeah. Biggest thing when it comes to, and so SEO for your website, your main URL, your pages, and then your blog posts are all pretty different tactics. They have the same sort of ideas, but if you're thinking for just your website, so your actual like homepage is coded to be basically a business location that's in the schema markup, whereas a blog post is coded as an article. So that you're a business location. So the biggest thing is, one, get text on your website. People, I know as photographers and videographers, we love to just have like, this expansive video and it's like a button that says like enter. There's no content on there, and I see that a lot. So things like those like splash pages or cover pages that kind of basically you're blocking, Google from really getting to the meat of your website. So just get text on your website, and literally, because understanding that your homepage is a business location, talk about what your business does and where you're located. And that's a lot going to be. It's almost. I always joke that SEO is the easiest, hardest thing. It's like once you can kind of get in the brain of Google and get in the brain of how it's thinking and how it's understanding searchers, things become a lot easier. So that's like and there's a lot more that goes into the SEO of your homepage when it comes to like backlinks, building trust with Google, but at least talk about what you're doing and where you're located. And that can help, really with starting to target your local keywords, those business keywords, those like, same thing like donut shop near me, that's, and most likely that donut shop's going to talk about being, Voodoo donuts in downtown Portland, so if you're in downtown Portland, that's the same behavior when someone types in Portland wedding photographer, Google's like, oh yeah, you're just like a donut shop. I'm just going to show people in that area for you.
So
I love Voodoo donuts, by the way.
I do too. So Portlanders are like, Voodoo, whatever, like blue star is so much better. I love me a Voodoo donut. I'm like, cover that in peanut butter and chocolate and Oreo. That's exactly what I want in my life.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah. So hopefully that answered the question, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I know like it's something, and maybe I'm spreading false information, but I learned something a while ago, to like rename your page URLs to be, like, for instance, don't do, Wild Oak Films, which is my business, wildoakfilms.com/about me, because no one is searching for about me. But if I do wildoakfilms.com/Wichita Wedding Videographer, people are potentially searching Wichita Wedding Videographer. And so like I'm putting a keyword in my URL. Is that still a thing that people should do? I've told a bunch of people like that, and they're like, "Oh, you're a genius, Nick." So you're getting ready to tell me that I'm not by the look on your face. You're like, it doesn't really matter.
It's like yes and no. So that is a tactic that has been used for a while, and it kind of depends. So like I wouldn't do Catalina Jean / like Portland Wedding Photographer in my URL because my CatalinaJean.com is already that, because having that / isn't your main URL anymore. You've created a secondary page. So if you want to rank your homepage URL for your location, you can just do that with just your URL. When it comes to your like about pages, like if you have an about me page, those are fine to be like about me, because those pages you don't technically want to rank. Those are just informational pages that are in the navigation of your site. Now, if you are like, okay, I want to, I shot a wedding in Palm Springs. I'm a videographer. I shot this amazing wedding in Palm Springs. I'm like, maybe I'll also create a page that's, like Catalina Jean / Palm Springs Wedding Videography. And I'll put that wedding in there and I'll talk about what I love shooting about in Palm Springs. So that's a little bit about what you're talking about. And that means I could rank, for different cities because I have the content and I can write about weddings there because now I'm an expert of that area. Basically, I've been there. This is what I loved. I
Sure.
researched some venues, like this is really cool. And so when someone searches, they're looking for a Palm Springs wedding videographer, they find this really nice informational page. And so you can totally do that for sure and experiment with. But the actual putting the keyword in the URL it's only like, every SEO sort of tactic is like 2 to 3% of the game. So URL, but your titles, image titles, body text, linking, like they all build till you hit that 100% of an optimized post. So say like for some reason if everything else on the page is pretty optimized around like Palm Springs wedding videography and the URL is just like /Palm Springs, it probably still has a really good chance of ranking because it's just one piece. Like best practice would be to put fully what you're targeting. But, again, it's argued too. Like I have a post that's on, I think I have 2 posts on page 1 and I keep forgetting to fix the URL because it's old and I didn't know it was like a 4-year-old, year-old kind of thing. And I keep forgetting to fix it, but it's on page 1 just fine. So it just goes to show that it's more about the holistic approach than just having a page with a URL especially if you're just like, oh, I want to create all these pages and target all these different cities, but it only has like 2 or 3 sentences of content. That could hurt you because now you're building what's called thin content. And so you have a big website with a bunch of not quality pages, whereas Google wants to see, it would rather see a good amount of high quality pages that are really created to be a great resource for that search term.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Cool. Yeah, John. So Catalina, what I'm hearing you say is that I'm not a complete idiot.
No, not at all. No, it's good.
Just maybe just a little bit. Okay, so we're gonna jump over. We're going to jump over into our questions because we asked some questions in our Facebook group. I mentioned the Facebook group, right? So you guys listening should go ahead and join that. And a new thing that we have here, John, do you have something to say? You're laughing at me. I feel like you're laughing at me.
Just telling people to do it. You just go in there, get in that group.
Yeah, go. What are you
I'm
doing?
giggling at you, which you should. It's a great group. It's
isn't that what you do when you want someone to do something? Is just ask them.
Do it. Yes.
I guess I didn't ask. I told, didn't I? Anyway.
Strong suggestion.
But we have some questions here, and we're going to start with our question of the day brought to you by Wedditor. Wedditor, more than freelance, more than outsourcing. So you might gonna check out Wedditor.com, and this comes from our friend Jake Weisler, kind of off of the heels of the URL pages and stuff. He asks advice for those of us who know how important it is to blog. And they want to enhance their SEO, but they have no idea where to start. It seems like, especially with video groups, we're kind of like, well, what's the purpose of a blog, when I have a YouTube channel or, something like that. So maybe answer the question, is a blog useful? And then how would we maybe go build some strategies or build some thoughts on content that we could put in a blog whenever you tell us that, yes, it does matter and you should have one?
Yeah, so this is awesome. So as videographers, I actually use some tactics that are more video oriented. So
nice.
So one thing to kind of think about is Google's a search engine, but YouTube is a search engine. Amazon's a search engine.
Now she's talking our
Vimeo's
language.
Right? So it's like these are all search engines. So they all take a little different. So I actually, pretty much when I started, I was like, I saw that Google had bought YouTube and I was like, oh, interesting. Well, I already make video, like photo slideshows for my clients to like license music. I'm like, I'm just going to put that on YouTube too. And I get booked at least 1 or 2 weddings a year. Like, oh, I found your YouTube video at my venue and then I watched all your videos. And so as a photographer using a videographer tactic, because that's one cool thing you guys do have is YouTube is an amazing resource. And I've seen videos from YouTube that will, and Google, it's funny, the desktop like first page is pretty hasn't changed a lot, but mobile, every time I go on them, there's something a little different. But for a while, there was a video carousel in the middle of page 1 that pulled videos. And often they were videographer videos. And so that started happening. So yeah, so definitely put your stuff on YouTube and think about it just like it's a search engine. Don't put, Bob and Mary's wedding. Put like Empire State Wedding, and then fill out the description, Sam and Blake's like Empire State Building wedding by, and put a link to your website and then the blog post comes in. So basically it's great, have a YouTube channel, but that's one part of, you're optimizing for a different kind of search engine. So having a blog for pretty much any business is really important. You're missing out on just same thing if like you didn't upload your videos to YouTube, you're missing out on putting that content out there. Well, having a blog is just duplicating that content for a different kind of search. So for like, I'm targeting a venue, and not only are my photos the first things that are seen, my blog post is the very top thing, and then my video slideshow shows in the carousel. So you can use these things to take up real estate on page one, which is awesome. So same thing, when you do a blog, just take your Vimeo or, am I pronouncing it right? Vimeo? I don't pronounce
it. Vimeo.
Vimeo, okay, Vimeo. Or YouTube video, embed it into the blog post, and then follow all the sort of SEO tactics. You know, when it comes to what you're targeting, put it in your title, write a great amount about information, whether it's like, you know, if it was a Big Sur elopement, you can write about, you know, what to think about when eloping in Big Sur and what to think about when hiring a videographer. You know, anything that's going to be helpful for someone who's like going to go on and search, I kind of want to elope in Big Sur. And it's like, oh, cool, here's someone who did a video there. And I see their video, maybe they end up in the carousel, and then and then click through to your video and then to the blog post for more info, or they're going to click on the blog post. But you've taken up more surface area by having a blog. But yeah, just use this as an opportunity to take the video you already made, and you're basically just doubling up on your ranking ability and real estate for that first page if you can snag it. So, and the one great thing about blog posts is, you know, a huge ranking factor is written content, is really writing at least, like the minimum agreed upon right now is like 300 words is the very minimum. So write something really great that looks great, that if you're like, if I was an engaged couple, this page would be super helpful for me. And your video can support that. So yeah.
That's good.
A hack, a deep nugget, if you will, that I heard from the Jenna Kutcher podcast was as soon as the wedding is over, like this photographer would literally get out her phone, and on the way home, she would record a message of her talking about the wedding day, so that in like a month and a half or 2 months, she would, when she went to write down her blog post, she could go listen to it. Because that's the hardest thing is 2 months after a wedding, you're like, okay, what happened on this day? And like, you just don't know. Bill and Sarah were awesome. They were amazing. Yeah. They were such a love. Like, that's everyone's blog post. So anyway, that is a hack that I stole from Jenna Kutcher that I don't do that I probably should, is, you know, text messages to yourself, voice messages to yourself for later on. Yeah.
I have another hack.
Do it.
I will probably never remember to record my voice, and I love it. So what I do is I go to my couple and I'm like, I'm about to blog your wedding. I'm so excited. I would love if like maybe you could answer these couple questions. And I'm like, and you both can answer. What couple doesn't want to relive their wedding again?
Sure.
So I'll ask them, what did they love about their wedding venue? Since I'm targeting the wedding venue, great. So what's their favorite memory? Just something really interesting. And then what advice do they have for future couples? Understanding my searcher is looking for information about
really good.
weddings. And then I copy and I paste.
That's a deep nugget.
Okay, I have a question I want to ask. Okay, so this is very selfish, so anybody listening, that if it doesn't pertain to you, sorry. But what I currently do, and I want to see if I'm doing this correctly. This is why I'm doing this podcast with Nick, is solely for my benefit. No, so currently right now, I upload everything to YouTube, and we are very big pushers of YouTube over Vimeo.
Yes.
Just, I mean, everything you're saying is, we agree with you. So I write up a big story, I tag it correctly, I write a captivating title, I have a good thumbnail, all that stuff. And in our group on Facebook, somebody was like, our blog's important or whatever. I literally copy the story, I paste it into a new blog, and then I embed the YouTube video into my site.
Yes.
So, and then obviously I pick like a keyword on Yoast is what I have through SEO, where it's like Spain Ranch wedding video or something like that.
Cool.
And in the title, I have Spain Ranch wedding video, and in the text several times, and then the tags I've got, you know, but like, so embedding YouTube videos inside of a site, is that, I mean, do you know of like, if that is the best practice? I mean, is that like giving us like bonus points with Google? Like we're embedding like all that, is that sound like what a wedding videographer should be doing? Or is there any tips that you would have on that?
No, I think that's what you should be doing, especially since Google owns YouTube. And I was just reading that articles with embedded videos do tend to rank higher, and people will stay on the page longer because there is not, there's kind of like, we're all sort of a little bit all over the place. I mean, we just like bounce around. And so when there's more content to view, and sometimes people prefer written, some people prefer video. So that way too, you're improving potentially your bounce rate, which is like when people come to your page and go, meh, when they bounce. Google keeps track of that. And if a page has a high bounce rate, it'll be like, okay, something that they don't like about this page. Yeah. But when people stay in and click in and are engaged and interested, that can keep your bounce rates for that post nice and healthy. So I think that is an amazing tactic to use. I'd also suggest too, if you could take stills from your video or something like that, and even just add kind of do like a little bit what photographers do. It's kind of like how I'm stealing a little bit of your game, putting photos into video, is putting photos into video, and you can pull photos out of video. So that way you can maybe get into the image search
grab
as well.
Grab a few stills. And then I've always wondered this, especially on WordPress, like the alt text kind of thing. And on Yoast, it's like, you don't have any images. And then it's like the alt text in your images don't, whatever. So this is a little next level for people listening. But like, if I'm grabbing a screenshot of like a groom melting when he sees the bride come down the aisle, in a good way, I
melting
click it. Am I needing... No, melting like, melting. It's so, she's
not
so pretty.
Not the exact word I would have chosen or translated. Love it. Okay. Melting.
Groom is excited, crying.
Yes.
There you go.
I put that into my post. Do I need to go into that image specifically and do anything to it? What should I do to that image?
Yeah, so there's a few things in Yoast that it will tell you to do that I'll say that. And that's one thing about Yoast is it's suggestions, and there's usually some things I'll actually disagree with Yoast. I'll be like, I don't actually need to do that. And that's a big thing that I talk about with like my SEO students is we walk through Yoast and be like, okay, these are for sure. These are, if you did this, then it's just, because it's just a robot. It's only smart enough. Like our brains are just, we can see a lot more. So with those screenshots, I would definitely go ahead and rename the image. I mean, you can go in, just when you hit your screenshots or however you take them out, just rename the image what you're targeting. And then in WordPress and Squarespace, you can add alt text, or in Squarespace, you put it in the image title. I think I've confirmed with them that's the alt text. Squarespace tried to make things like not as techy, which is great, but it also, I'm like, wait, so where is the alt text then? Yeah. And then fill that out. And basically what you're doing with alt text is because Google this is debated, but Google's pretty much blind. It can't see images. So you're just describing to Google what the image is. And with alt text, you can also use more secondary targeting. So maybe you're targeting Empire State Building wedding. You put that in the alt text with a beholden dress and pastel wedding details. Because Google is constantly scouring the internet because there's like ranking your blog posts, but images can end up in the image search for all sorts of different keywords. Also, if someone does add it to Pinterest, that alt text will pull in through rich pins if you have your business approved. So that way, because again, Pinterest is a search engine. So again, you're just doubling up. Why not? So I actually write my alt text both for Google and for Pinterest.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Wow.
So good.
So much stuff.
I love it. It's my favorite.
I'm going to go change everything. I'll be back in like a year. I'm changing everything.
Yeah. Well, Catalina, we've been talking for close to an hour here. I know it doesn't feel like it. It's a lot of good information that you have.
Zooms by.
Totally zooms by. But we know that you have some stuff that you have worked on, that you have put out there, that we wanted to give our listeners an opportunity to learn about. So why don't you talk about SEO is fun? And seeing your face, I can tell that you firmly believe that SEO is fun. So why don't you talk about that for just a minute?
Yeah. I created SEO is fun, and it was literally sort of in reaction to all the SEO things I saw out on the market. And they were all just like confusing and techy. And I'm like, I want to rebrand SEO. I want to rebrand SEO the way like I feel about it. Like that it's fun, that it's easy, and that it can be, can be really approachable. So yeah, so when I created SEO Fun, I've been teaching SEO at conferences, workshops, and individually for a few years. And I sort of took all that understanding of what people were looking for and put it into an online class that it's like 3 hours long. It's really, I wanted to make something small and short, and people, because I've bought online classes and then it's like 18 hours and I'm like, I can't, like, I just know as business owners, I'm like, get to the point. So, yeah, so I think truly, I'm just like, I feel you. I'm like, I want to get to the point with this stuff. So yeah, so the SEO is Fun online class, it basically goes over a lot of what we talked about today, but it will come with a workbook. There's like a 70 slide PowerPoint presentation because of who I am as a person. But it'll really show you how to implement this stuff both in Squarespace and WordPress. I do teach on both, and exactly like how to think about this stuff, how to come up with your own strategies, and then how to actually, because that's the one thing with like even like us talking this way is some people don't know exactly where their title is, or Yoast is really confusing. And so in the online class, I'm able to screen share and we go through Google Search Console, like how do you so you can actually start tracking your rankings. Yeah, so that's SEO is Fun. You can Google that and that'll come up. I'm also on Instagram, so just at SEO is Fun. There's lots of free tips and mini teachings on there. And then for the subscribers of this podcast, I did create a coupon code for you guys. So use SEO Film 50. So SEO FILM 50 for $50 off the online class. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to message me. I love answering questions. Also, if you're listening to this podcast, take a little screenshot, and if you share it on your Instagram stories, tag SEO is Fun, and I'll shoot you over a free mini class on how to easily check your rankings on your phone. So, so there are two things that take advantage of if you want to get started. Yeah, with snagging rankings. So it's really easy.
Can we do something?
Yeah.
Can we all do the thing that you're doing?
Oh my gosh, this is so my thing.
Okay, screenshot that. So if you're listening, I'm sorry, you can screenshot your podcast itself. But if you're watching on YouTube, by the way, youtube.com/howtofilmweddings. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, screenshot us making our fun face. So,
perfect.
Anyway.
I love that. Yeah. Tag.
Didn't mean to interrupt. I just thought that'd be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, you get a free mini class, and you get a free mini class. Just doing over here.
So that is, isn't it? SEOisfun.co, or is it .com, or
it's .co. Somebody snagged at the .com already, but I just decided that I think most people don't type in full URLs, but if they Google it, I was like, I'm going to demolish this person. So
sure. Okay, so SEO is Fun. Just type it into Google.
Healthy competition.
On Instagram at SEO is Fun. If you want to follow your photography work, where are you there? Because you are a photographer.
Yeah,
right?
I know nobody talks to me about it. Oh, it's really fun. So that's just Catalina Jean is my photography name's on.
And Nick, she followed me today. I feel pretty famous.
She followed me as well.
I figured she might have.
Yeah.
What if I just follow John? Like, not Nick. I'm just like,
That would be awesome.
That'd be cool. Well, Catalina, thank you so much for being on our podcast and taking the time to talk about this thing that everyone stresses out about and everyone thinks about. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no, you're so welcome. It was so fun to kind of talk about it from the videography sense. So thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you bet. And again, if you are watching this on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/howtofilmweddings, make sure you subscribe, share this video with anyone that you think will find it helpful. If you're listening to it on your favorite podcatcher, share it, write a review so other people can find us. Look for us on Facebook. And until next time, we'll see ya.
See ya.
I
love it.
I'm going to stop recording myself, right?